Ever wonder about the horrors of the American psychiatric care system in the 1940s? Well, Netflix's Ratched has you covered. In this intense, thrilling show about family, love, mental health, medicine, revenge, and manipulation, we dive deep into the minds and bodies of some pretty unsavory characters. Ratched is based on the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and features the same antagonist as the book and the movie that followed, Nurse Ratched. And today we're going to be taking you through what happened in Season 1 and what we think may happen as a result in Season 2. We will be discussing the show in nitty-gritty details, so if you haven't yet watched it, here's your spoiler alert. So, the show takes place in 1947, and we are immediately sucked into the drama and horror almost right off the bat when we see a man who we later know to be Edmund Tollison viciously murder 4 priests, one who he claims is his father who raped and abandoned his mother. So, of course, we see his motive. Well, kind of. And we're left wondering what his backstory is. Well, cut to our introduction of Mildred Ratched in her stylish and elegant ways, who arrives at Lucia State Hospital to assume the position of a nurse. Right away, we see how she manipulates her way into situations so easily, forging a letter from the head of the hospital, Dr. Hanover, which invites her to interview for the position of a nurse. She is not afraid to have people killed in the process, though viewers at first are confused why she's doing all of this. And eventually, we realize why. She's doing all of this for one reason and one reason only. We find out that she somehow knows Edmund Tollison, and for a while we're not sure what their relationship is, but we definitely know that they love each other. Of course, we find out later that they're foster siblings, forever connected by their experiences. Their story is a very sad one. So basically they were moving from foster home to foster home as kids, and they became very close, finding comfort in one another. Well, one of the social workers took pity on the two and forged paperwork that said that they were biological siblings, so that in their journey from then on, they wouldn't be separated. They then got placed with a rich couple with a large home, and we think maybe their lives are finally going to see some peace and happiness, right? Wrong. The sicko couple essentially baits pedophiles and child molesters into the basement of their home, where they pay to watch Mildred and Edmund perform sexual acts on each other. The 2 poor children were stuck in the claws of this disgusting cycle until Edmund one day kills the couple and tells Mildred to run, saving her life. In this process, though, they get separated, and there's some resentment that hangs between the two. Mildred searches forever to find him, and after finding him, he skirts their meetup and actually doesn't show up when he said he would. This breaks her heart. The two aren't reunited until Lucia State Hospital, when we see them trying to work through all their emotions towards each other and about each other, and Mildred promises to get Edmund out of there and save his life as he saved hers years prior. They come up with this elaborate plan for him to act insane so he can't stand trial, and between Mildred's manipulation of Dr. Hanover on one side and the governor's political pursuits on the other, it's safe to say there's a lot of room for things to go wrong. He manages to escape, but is caught and brought back to the hospital once again. Before Edmund is put to death by electric chair, we see Nurse Bucket, Nurse Ratched, and Gwendolyn come up with a plan to euthanize Edmund in a humane way. Well, that goes wrong when Charlotte Wells, a patient at the facility, returns and breaks Edmund out of his cell under the guise of Dr. Hanover. Fast forward to a month later. We see Mildred and Gwendolyn sitting peacefully in Mexico holding hands, and Mildred receives a phone call. She already knows it's Edmund, and the day she had been anticipating has finally arrived. She knows he's coming for her, but in an intense moment tells him that he should actually be scared because she's coming for him first. Now, there's a lot to unpack here between the 2 siblings. If you're familiar with the movie, you see how villainous Nurse Ratched actually is, and this series is actually its prequel, so we think there has to be something that sets off Mildred for good that turns her into this absolutely evil character that we see in the film. And we see how this leads up to how she begins to behave towards the end of Season 1. We watch how her motivations change from being someone who wants purpose and wants to help her brother to a stone-cold leader who rules with an iron fist. But because Edmund is now coming for her after murdering a bunch of nurses, it's possible he may hurt Nurse Bucket, or even closer to home, Gwendolyn, which could be the snapping point for Mildred's sense of self and being able to love. Since this show is intended to have a 4-season arc, we are sure that we will continue to see Nurse Ratchet's character shift and change as she struggles with the various sides of her persona. So, does this mean she'll be a monster or an angel in Season 2 and beyond? Well, we see glimpses of her being super rude, conniving, and unafraid of the prospect of killing someone herself or by manipulation tactics. So even though her motivation is indeed family and love, she definitely does some things that many people would say they would never do. Well, I guess the human psyche is funny like that. Of course, there's also the idea of her being this angel of mercy, where she previously put those soldiers out of misery by suffocating them, and continues to do so throughout the first season of Ratchet with the patients. She stands by her behavior though, so we will be seeing a lot more of that side of her in the next seasons. We do see that she does have a conscience, which we think will definitely play a role in how she rules over the hospital at first, but considering the hardened version of her in the film, we're not so sure these compassionate sides of her will remain as time goes on. For example, during the torturous hydrotherapy, which basically means boiling a patient until they'll do whatever you want them to do, Nurse Ratchet tries to put a stop to the torture. We don't know if she does this for generally ethical reasons, but it could be because the woman in therapy is lesbian, and as we know, Nurse Ratchet, at that point, is a closeted lesbian herself. So it may be the guilt that drives her to try and save the patient. But does that make her an angel? Or a monster? Something in between? Or just human? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. So in Season 2, she could be hatching up a plan to return to Northern California to find Edmund. But the last frame leaves off on Tolleson driving a car we imagine is headed to Mexico. But the conviction with which she tells Edmund she's coming for him first tells us that she'll find him before he finds her. There's always the potential that once she gets her hand on Edmund, that she'll perform a lobotomy or maybe even kill Edmund now that he poses as a major threat to her, and she understands that if she doesn't get rid of the problem, Edmund will kill her first. We imagine that most of Season 2 will probably be the cat and mouse game between Edmund and Mildred, presuming they haven't killed each other yet in the elusive ending of Season 1. Either way, we're very curious about the inner workings of the human mind, and this show has got us asking all kinds of questions. So friends, what do you think about that Season 1 ending, and what do you think will happen in Season 2? Do you think Mildred is naturally evil and heartless, or do you think she's a product of her life experiences? Leave us a comment below. As usual, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell as we bring you more juicy info, gossip, and speculation about the shows and stars you know and love. Until next time!